Okay then, so now we're in round 4. This is the second heat race, and of course it is the final race for many drivers this weekend, this round 4. People are fighting to stay in the event, because after this it's all about the semi-finals and the final itself. So we've got a bit of a serious race on here, with actually a lot of people who need the points. So let's have a look. Heat 2, we've got Ed White, we've got Lewis Manley, we've got Marcel Holling, we've got Ramon Pinero, George Massey, Sean Briley, Conor Marsh, Joris Sturm, Rob Duma, Johnny Elliott. And at the moment it's Ed White who's just gone fastest from Lewis Manley. Rob Duma's pushed himself up to 3rd ahead of Ramon Pinero. Joris Sturm is 4th, Sean Briley is 5th, Conor Marsh 6th, 7th for Johnny Elliott, Marcel Holling 8th, and George Massey 9th. Now, the first thing I'm looking at with this screen is this. Conor Marsh has come in 7th place, and that's been Conor Marsh's standard starting position this weekend, and it's also been exactly what has triggered his early pit stops, and he's the one who set the trend yesterday for those early stops. He's been the only one really to make them work. Almost came a little bit unstuck this morning with that gutsy early stop, but it did work for him yesterday, and so I'm expecting an early stop again from Conor Marsh. But it's Ed White. Ed White definitely is important that he gets some points. Lewis Manley is pretty downhearted at the moment. He knows he's actually fighting to stay in the whole competition, and he hasn't won a heat race at all this weekend. Normally we would expect to do that. We're looking on screen there, we can see Ramon Pinero up at the front of that. He's actually starting from 4th place, and behind him is Joris Sturm, and there's Sean Briley, and then backwards we can see Johnny Elliott is down there in 8th place. Marcel Holling, talking to him earlier, is going to be behind Johnny Elliott. Very tall Marcel Holling in the dark suit there. So there is Conor Marsh and Johnny Elliott, Marcel Holling, and bringing up the rear there is George Massey. Now Ed White's bringing him around very slowly indeed, very slow, and he's building up the speed and he's racing across the line. The start is good, and Ed White takes the lead and holds it from Lewis Manley. Lewis Manley, of course, fighting to stay in the contest. Rob Duma, the Polish driver, way up there, fending off Ramon Pinero, fending off Joris Sturm, and Sean Briley is way down by his standards in 6th place. We saw him win earlier on. Now, as they down the back stretch, it's still Ed White. Lewis Manley. Now, Lewis Manley knows this is a make or break race for him. He has to win this. He has to win this for his own mentality. He has to win this to stay in the competition, as Ed White leads out towards the snail section for the second lap. Spanners, well, yeah. It's a bit of a late pit stop by his standards for Conor Marsh.
Well, I've actually noticed that Conor Marsh tends to make early pit stops, James. That's an observation I've made.
That's a very good observation.
Thanks. But with Lewis Manley, you're right, he is a bit down. He is a bit frustrated by the result, but can he channel that into something positive here rather than let it drag him down?
Yeah, if there's any criticism of Lewis Manley, it has to be said that criticism is that he's laying the blame at his own door, whether it's his own performance or his own luck. But you've got a visitor.
Sean Briley's come to visit, lifts himself off the go-kart, actually makes a bit of contact with the pit sensors, and he's gone. So what position did he pit from?
Oh, he was quite way down the order. He was 6th place. So
why not then?
Sean Briley was... but basically, he was taking a leaf out of Conor Marsh's book. He qualified down. He felt he was out of place, so he threw it in the pits to give himself the clear air. Now, Ed White's continuing. So is Lewis Manley. The hero of the early stops is coming in. It's Conor Marsh.
Wow, who could have predicted that? Conor Marsh has made a pit stop. It's smooth through the first set of lights. He's only got Briley to worry about, and I don't think he's going to do enough. Now, Sean's gone through there.
Absolutely. Conor Marsh making an early pit stop is about as predictable as Ruben Boutens winning a race, isn't it? It's going to happen. So, Conor Marsh, importantly, has come out behind Sean Briley, and maybe actually he's further behind Sean Briley than he was at the start of the race. So that's an interesting little telltale, because down the back straight there's Sean Briley and there is Conor Marsh. So round they go through that final turn. Meanwhile, up at the front it is Ed White. There he is on screen. Now, Lewis Manley. This is very, very important for Lewis Manley. As I was saying earlier, if there's a criticism this weekend of Lewis Manley, it's that he believes that it's to do with him that the results haven't been coming, whether it's his own performance or his own luck or this or that. But actually, I think the standard around him has been very high, and that's been what has knocked him down the order a little bit.
Well, twice, James. He's just had real bad luck with how the pit stop shook out.
Well, his real bad luck has actually, he might have got away with that and it not appeared to be bad luck in previous years. The standard's so high now that that bad luck has then been filled in by a whole bunch of other good people.
I'm having a look at Pinheiro, who strikes me as a very intelligent and tactical driver. If he can't find a way past Duma now, he might have to find himself having to do something, having to pit.
Yeah, and Ramon Pinheiro, one of the more fiery drivers, the Spaniard who actually has raced cars up to Formula 2 level and been a race winner after a glittering karting career. Certainly Ramon Pinheiro means business, and he's definitely the sort of person. He's got two strings to this particular bow. He's very good strategically. As you say, he will come into the pits if needs be, but he's also pretty good on track as well, and he is the sort of person who will put in the crazy lunge even if he has a pit stop in hand.
I think this is going to be it. I think we're going to see Pinheiro coming in.
Yes, it is. He's in.
Well called by me. Well done, me. Good pit stop. Screeches to a halt to get away. I think that was absolutely the smart thing to do. Slightly less than perfect, and he's not going to come out in front of Sean Briley. Oh, he is.
Sean Briley's got momentum. Pinheiro's got track position. Sean Briley's trying around the outside. They do touch, but nothing serious. And Pinheiro's held on. Pinheiro's held on ahead of Sean Briley. We can see on the screen, and that is ahead of Conor Marsh as well. In front of them, of course, is George Massey. George Massey's also been in the pits. This is for position. So, sorry, George Massey hasn't been in the pits.
Well, it could be bad news for Pinheiro as Duma tries to cover him off, and I think he's got every chance, James, and I think he's going to do it.
Well, they've passed Massey, and Duma has done it. Duma has definitely done it. That hasn't worked for Ramon Pinheiro, who probably feel that coming out behind Massey was the factor there, but Rob Duma was very quick on that lap in between their pit stops. So, we resume with Ed White in the lead, Lewis Manley second. It's now Joris Sturm in third, and guess who's fourth? It's Johnny Elliott.
Where did that come from? He sneaked up there.
Yeah, it came through from about 7th or 8th place, that's for sure. Marcel Hollink has gone with him. In the pits is Hollink.
Hollink has come into the pits. Looking ahead, I think he's going to slot in nicely behind Massey, actually. But it's a... Yeah, I think Massey's definitely got the momentum there.
Yeah, Massey's got him fair and square as they go into the snail section. George Massey is holding that position ahead of Marcel Hollink as they go round the snail. In fact, it's a couple of kart lengths as well, so pretty convincing there. George Massey getting ahead of Hollink when Hollink pitted. Now, George Massey has yet to pit though, so there will be ultimately a change there. Now, we're looking on screen at Rob Duma. Now, Rob Duma, he of course has been into the pits, I believe. Yes, he has, as he continues his way, and he's been chased down by Ramon Pinheiro and Sean Briley.
Massey.
Massey.
Into the pits. He's going to come out all on his own there. In fact, it's a bad pit stop. He's had to take another jab at it. The net result of that is that he won't interfere with the lead battle as much as he might have done.
Well, interestingly, from Massey's point of view, Spanners, when you say it's a bad pit stop, does that mean it was bad, he's got to do it again, or was that just not a brilliant one?
Yes, it was not a very good one, rather than a bad pit stop.
Well, but at least that's good news from Massey's point of view, isn't it?
Sean Briley's got past, though, as well there on that
Yes,
lap.
he has, you're right. Absolutely right. He's ahead of Ramon Pinheiro. So this really hasn't worked out with Ramon Pinheiro. We're seeing on screen in the snail area, the predominantly yellow is Sean Briley. The Spaniard, Pinheiro, is behind him, and behind that is Conor Marsh. There's Conor Marsh. But it is Sean Briley who's managed to get ahead of Ramon Pinheiro. Now this will be quite worth the order. He's trying now to close down the gap to Rob Duma. We can see running ahead of him mostly in red. There's Rob Duma, and there is Sean Briley, and there is Pinheiro and Conor Marsh. So this is tightening up a little bit in what is at the moment the mid-pack, which will become close at the front of the race. Probably even the battle for third place.
Am I imagining it, or is Lewis Manley closing that gap to Ed White?
You know, let's have a look. Lewis Manley is the fastest in this race, and he's right on the tail of Ed White. I think he has. And saying that you're closing in on Ed White is saying something indeed. This is the Lewis Manley of old. This is the Lewis Manley that knows how to win. This is not the down in the dumps Lewis Manley we've had all weekend so far. And Ed White is under massive pressure now. There they are. There's Ed White with the orange, and there's Lewis Manley in red. They come down the backstretch. Ed White actually has to go defensive. Now, any time you're good enough to make Ed White go defensive, you're doing very well indeed. And that says everything about this turnaround in performance by Lewis Manley. He's got his head up again, and he's now really taking the fight. Lewis Manley is a multiple track champion here at Formula Fast, so he knows his way around. But in the pits.
Pit, it's Johnny Elliott bouncing up and down in the pink helmet, part of Squadra Furio, and he's going to slot in behind Conor Marsh.
Yeah, the Squadra Furio driver has taken the pit stop there, but he is down the order. This is a lot further down than we normally associate with Johnny Elliott, but the standard is high. We'll see what he can do, whether he can pull through the field. Meantime, all eyes are on Manley's pursuit of Ed White. Ed White's got 15 laps in. There's still a long way to go, more than 12 minutes to go. There's Joris Sturm, and next will be Rob Duma. That's Massey, but next should be Rob Duma.
Thing is, Lewis Manley will make a move if there's one on offer, but
Yeah.
Ed White doesn't tend to make the kind of mistake that's going to leave a big wide gap.
Yeah, if there's a move on offer, Lewis Manley will make it, but Ed White's not going to be doing the offering, really, is he? A long way back, though, to third place, which is Joris Sturm. So there's Ed White, there is Lewis Manley, there is George Massey in between Manley and Joris Sturm. So awful long way back. There's Ed White. Such is the pace of the two leaders. They are the fastest on the track. It's still Lewis Manley who holds the best lap of this race so far. There he is in red. Onto the back stretch. And here they come. There's Ed White. There's Lewis Manley. It's an enormous gap, and it should then be George Massey who's a lap down. Oh, one way then the other for Lewis Manley. Here comes Ed White. This is on the camera crane corner. They're coming back past Hugh Spanners.
Yeah, I don't think that was a mistake, but certainly Ed White looked a little busier on the wheel into patch corner than he normally does. So he's feeling the pressure from Lewis Manley. I don't know. I think Lewis Manley's got a big chance here.
Yeah, I think you're right, and he's making the chance. That's the difference. He's making the chance because he's all over the back of Ed White, working Ed White hard. The only way you're ever going to beat someone like Ed White is to pressure them into something, and even that takes some doing, but Lewis Manley's doing that right now. I don't think there's going to be necessarily any errors, but the pit stop's going to be crucial for Ed White, and that's the kind of heat that he needs to be put under to be beaten.
Well, I think Sturm is far enough back that it means Ed White can white line it. A phrase that I'm using with authority, having only just heard it yesterday, but he can white line it without the threat of Sturm interfering with their battle.
Yeah, it was a phrase thrown in by Brad Philpott. I think he might have even invented it yesterday. He was in an almighty five-way fight for position, which he was at the front of, and by being, well, I wouldn't like to say ridiculously defensive, but he was about as defensive as you could ever get, and not get completely mullered out of the way. And he referred to that as white lining it, completely on the inside everywhere.
I think just claim you invented it, James. No one's going to know.
Well, Ed White is going to be in a position of having to think about white lining things soon. He's taken the normal racing line, which is to the outside of that backstretch. You can really see what a driver's thinking and the pressure he's feeling when we see down the backstretch, because they will automatically then go to the inside if they're feeling like they have to defend something.
And for some of the teams there that we won't name, they're getting excited when you're talking about white lining. Just to be clear, it is a defensive driving move you're describing.
Exactly, which is why there's great care being taken when using the phrase white lining. And Lewis Manley is actually, there's Ed White now. He's holding a middle line there. That was very interesting down the backstretch. Ed White is feeling that he needs to keep speed. He just wants to stop Manley thinking about something. He's not worried about an immediate attack, which is why he wasn't far over to the left-hand side there, but he was wanting to probably more like stop Manley thinking about it, would be the best way of putting it.
Hey, I tell you what I'm looking at here at the moment is Duma.
Manley on the inside. Manley's going through. He's on the inside of Ed White. He's managed to jump him coming out the snail. They're side by side onto the backstretch, and Manley has done it. He's on the inside. Surely he's got the position. It's going to come down to a braking battle. Manley takes it. Does he run wide? No, he doesn't. And Lewis Manley has gone into the lead. An incredible overtake. Probably one of the overtakes of the weekend. He did it somehow on momentum out of the snail. How he did it, I don't know. Only Ed White and Lewis Manley know. But here comes Ed White. He's trying to come back at Lewis Manley. But Lewis Manley has got it. He's made it work, Spanners. Unbelievable.
Oh, I'm glad you caught that. Yeah, fantastic move. He's going to be delighted under his helmet. I was just looking at the Briley-Duma battle as well, because Briley is overlapping on a lot of the corners, and it looks like there's definitely a move coming there at some point.
Absolutely, and Ed White is not giving in. Ed White clearly wants to win this. It's not enough for him to be second. He knows he's probably comfortably into the semi-final, but he needs more points if he wants to get in the final itself. So Ed White, well aware that he could do a winning. There's Joris Sturm in third place, but here is Lewis Manley under enormous pressure from Ed White. Ed White's not taking this line down. He's going to come back at Manley. Expect Manley to be on the inside. Yes, there he is. Ed White moving to the outside to the normal racing line. That sends Manley wide. Ed White could cut back under him, but not quite enough. Here's the crane camera turn. Lewis Manley is You can see he's looking at this way and that, going into that final turn and looking again.
He needs to look forward at some point. I think he knows this track well enough to not have to be fair.
Yeah, if anyone could drive this track blindfolded, it is Lewis Manley. In fact, if anyone could win a race around here blindfolded, it is Lewis Manley. But he's trying to win against Ed White here, so he probably does need both eyes open. Expect him to be on the inside. Yes, he is. Well, he's actually gone for the middle line. It's a discouraging line more than an outright defence one. A super blocking line will be to the inside. That discouraging line is the middle, and the normal racing line to the outside. Anyway, Lewis Manley, another lap in, and of course neither have taken their pit stops. The top three who we're waiting to see in the pits, so that would include Joris Sturm, the Dutchman who is from Middelburg in Holland, who is racing around in third place, some way behind the leaders, 4 seconds nearly. There is Sturm, slightly into picture. So here's Manley onto the back stretch. Expect him on the inside. There he's on the extreme inside.
Conor Marsh and Raymond Pinheiro have joined that battle with Sean Briley and Robert Duma, and that is shaping up beautifully.
Yes, it is. It's a four-way fight for fourth place. Joris Sturm pretty much on his own, but the battle for fourth place as the Manley and Ed White battle continues. This is really, really tight. Ed White looks like the kind of driver who can make a run at any moment. He's trying to do what Lewis Manley did. I think Lewis Manley took a wider line out the snail, and that's what did it for him before. Ed White's sort of trying to follow a similar thing, but look at that. That's extreme defence by Lewis Manley rather than the discouraging middle line. When he's taking the line that tight, he's expecting imminent attack. That is the Brad Philpott white lining move. Across the line then, Lewis Manley, and up the inside into the snail. Ed White has made a move up the inside. He's done it. White has taken the lead back from Lewis Manley into the snail, but Lewis Manley's coming back at him. Lewis Manley's trying to get him coming out of the snail. Joris Sturm in picture there, but Lewis Manley's been pushed back second by Ed White. And look at that, again, extreme defence by Ed White. He knew an attack was coming. That wasn't just to be discouraging, that was absolute having to block him off. And Ed White continues in the lead now. Ed White has got the lead back, continues there. Joris Sturm has actually closed in the middle of all of that lot. Now, they weren't slowing each other down by contact, they were just slowing each other down by the fact they were offline. So there's Joris Sturm. You see he's a lot closer in picture. That's key. Now Lewis Manley, this is what did it for him last time. A wider run out of the snail, but Ed White has got it covered this time. There's going to be no move up the inside by Manley. And again, Ed White, extreme defence to the inside line there down the backstretch.
I think
very interesting.
Manley's going to be desperately disappointed to get overtaken there, knowing this track as well as he does. I think he'll be disappointed. But the thing is, I think he was quite defensive in the final hairpin, and Ed just got a big run. And with this layout, a good run out of that final corner is quite useful. So you don't have that same impunity to just go ultra defensive on the final hairpin.
Absolutely not. Now, it opens up a bit of the front, but the battle is there in fourth place with Rob Duma, as he's fending off a big battle behind him with Briley, Marsh and Pinheiro. So Sturm closes on the leaders, but there's the battle there. That's it. It's Rob Duma with Sean Briley, Conor Marsh and Ramon Pinheiro. Good grief, Ramon Pinheiro's gone right to the back of this group while we've been watching the leaders, as there's Duma, Briley and Conor Marsh and Ramon Pinheiro.
So James, Pinheiro went to the back of that as a result of the pit stop, so he's been catching up. Briley's been super attacking, but Duma's like my man of the race so far. It's been a fantastic defensive drive. Briley's been giving him everything, and they've been side by side overlapping, but Duma's just kept his cool.
Absolutely. Now, the battle with Duma is being caught by no less than Johnny Elliott in 8th place. So Johnny Elliott, although he's in 8th, is going to be in a fight for 4th place. There he is. There's Johnny Elliott, and he's closing in that group ahead, the Squadra Furio driver. Manchester-based is Johnny Elliott, and he's always a contender in any championship he drives in. And he's closing on this group here. He's getting a lot closer. There is Johnny Elliott crossing the line. There's only 3 minutes to go. We're waiting for the top 3 to come in, Spanner. So they'll be.
They've not pitted, have they?
No, exactly. That's the incredible thing. And Manley's in.
Yeah, Manley's coming. I was hoping he wasn't going to get his head down after that move. It looked like Ed White was bringing in a slight gap, but Manley's normally very, very good on these pit stops, and that's no exception. That's perfect. If Ed White so much as blinks wrong on his lap before he comes in, I think Lewis Manley's going to have a chance.
He has been off our radar a bit, but I think Joris Sturm could be a threat when these pit stops cycle through. Meantime, we're back with the Rob Duma battle, and Rob Duma, Sean Briley, Conor Marsh and Ramon Pinheiro, and there's Johnny Elliott getting ever closer to the back of that group. It is, of course, Rob Duma, the Polish driver, holding off Sean Briley, and only just leader in.
We've got Ed White in now. This will be crucial. He's got his second stop. Do you know what? It looks like he's got enough. Lewis Manley's going to have momentum, but that gap is closer than I thought it was going to be.
Absolutely right. Lewis Manley trying it on, go into the snail area. He's moving to the outside, but he can't make it work. He's trying coming out of the snail. Lewis Manley trying to the outside. Can he do the undercut? He's trying. This worked for him before. Can he cut under him? No, he can't is the answer, but he's still trying. Ed White's going to be massively defending. Yes, he is. Look at Ed White to the inside there, holding him off. There's Ed White in the lead. There's Lewis Manley. And you can tell what the driver's feeling down the backstretch. If he's really worried about immediate attack, it's to the inside completely. If he's just trying to be discouraging, it's to the middle. And if he's on, not expecting any kind of problem, it's to the outside. And of course, Ed White on the extreme inside there. Now there's Lewis Manley moving to the outside, coming out the snail. That gives him an easier run through this section here that we're looking at, and that is why he overtook Ed White last time. Tried again, look at them, absolutely over to the inside here. And there's Joris Sturm in third. Joris Sturm could be closing in on this lead battle. It is Lewis Manley who's still fastest in this race. 1.5 minutes to go. Ed White over the line with Lewis Manley, and here comes Joris Sturm. Joris Sturm, the Dutchman. And then it's the almighty... Oh, and there's been a collision at the back there.
Yeah, so I saw that. I got a good view of it. Pinero came down the inside, acknowledged it was too heavy a contact, apologised, and has given that place straight back.
Yeah, he's given it back, but what that has done is created a gap to Sean Bradley. So the heat is off Sean Bradley. The heat is definitely on Ed White, who we're looking at now, as Ed White is fending off Lewis Manley. Lewis Manley means to win this, it's quite clear. There's going to be some desperate lunges. Lewis Manley is probably feeling it's a win or bust in this race to get himself into the semi-final. He's going to be very difficult. This is the Lewis Manley of old. This is the most formidable Lewis Manley we've seen all weekend, and he's challenging Ed White. Ed White, one of the best in the world, certainly regarded as the top Brit at the moment. They've been chased by Joris Sturm, so Lewis Manley, and there's Rob Duma. Lewis Manley is still fighting.
Conor Marsh not happy. Pinero's managed to get that place back again. I didn't see where that happened, but yeah, Conor Marsh not happy.
Yes, he is, and there's Ed White. Look at that. There's Conor Marsh ahead of Johnny Elliott. He's now under pressure with Johnny Elliott. There's Marcel Holling talking to the pits earlier on. Now, here is Lewis Manley. They're in the final few seconds of the race. He's gone to the outside. Is he making a move? No, not quite. He's gone to the outside again. This is what worked for him before. It hasn't worked since because Ed White is wise to it. So, there's Duma, there's Briley, and a big gap now. There's side by side down the backstretch. It's Ed White who just holds off Lewis Manley for the lead. Ed White, Lewis Manley catches the inside, and Joris Sturm is joining this. Joris Sturm in third place has joined the leaders now. The leaders have lost time fighting with each other. It's now a three-way fight for the lead. It's Ed White versus Lewis Manley and the Dutchman Joris Sturm on the last lap. It's the last lap, and Ed White has the lead. Ed White has the lead on the last lap.
Both the top two have broken the lap record during this race.
Absolutely, yes they have, and it was held by double world champion Matthias Grooten, but not now. It's held by Lewis Manley, as Lewis Manley breaking the track record during the BRKC event of all time to challenge Ed White, but it could be Ed White wins. Yes, Ed White is going to come through. Surely Ed White's going to take the checker flag. Ed White does. Ed White wins from Lewis Manley and Joris Sturm in a fighting third. Joris Sturm closed that gap right up. It's going to be Rob Duma in fourth, and it's Sean Briley fifth, Ramon Pinero sixth, and seventh for Conor Marsh, eighth Johnny Elliott, ninth Marcel Holling, 10th George Massey. And what a race that was, Spanners. That was truly epic. Hopefully Lewis Manley takes heart from that. There's George Massey just taking the flag, the final finisher there.
I didn't want that race to end, James. I wanted, could we not just add 10 laps when it's going that well? Because Sturm was joining it as well. I'll make sure that Ed's going to come and chat to me. Also, I was really loving that battle with Duma at the back. Pinero being super fighty. I would have loved to have seen what Elliott could have done with some more laps as well. Just fantastic action. I'm frightened at the moment. I definitely don't want to get in between Pinero and Conor Marsh. There's going to be words for sure. The spirit normally very good, but Marsh really unhappy with Pinero getting past.
Contact warning for Pinero as well. So we'll go down to you in the pits, Spanners.
So definitely Marsh has gone, and the contact warning probably justified. I think it was the fact that it came twice after he'd gained the place and then given it back. I want to speak to Duma as well, so I'll make sure that we get hold of him. Can you come and chat Robert, can you come and chat to me when you've got your helmet off? That was a fantastic defensive battle there for fourth, and he was under pressure literally the whole race. So we're going to get to speak to Ed White. I want to speak to you as well. I tell you what, let's speak to Robert first. Robert, I've not spoken to you yet this event, but for fourth place, Sean really made you fight for that. It was excellent.
Well, Sean is a really good driver, 13th of the world. So I knew I have to cope with him, you know.
There was no sense of giving up, was there? I mean, you covered him off in the pits perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, my team worked on it really all race, so I knew exactly what's happening. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm here for, just to learn from people like Sean and others, you know.
I think tonight when you go home and have a drink, you'll think about that, and that feels like a race win, doesn't it?
Well, in everyday racing, I race amongst lighter people, so I sort of know what pressure is like. But obviously, Sean is a great driver. You know, I couldn't believe I qualified on front of him. But I mean.
You earned it and you kept it. Thank you very much, Robert Duma. Fantastic racing, great to watch. Let's go get Ed over here. In fact, let's get both of them over because that was such a fantastic battle. Ed, ding-dong battle between two of them. You passed him in one of the most unlikely places. How's that? How was that?
Yeah, what a race. Yeah, Lewis was defending so well. Yeah, defending so well. That was the only place. I had a few laps before, thought I could do it there, and he went slow out of this corner, had a good run, and just stuck it.
You can't quite block on that corner as you could in the other format. It does punish you.
Sorry?
You can't quite just block and slow down in that corner because it does punish you all the way up down there.
Yeah, punished you the whole way up there, and luckily I just managed to get up the inside of him.
Another race win. Don't go anywhere. I need to grab you your medal. But we've got to speak to Lewis Manley. The win was on. I think you can't be too downhearted. What a scrap with Ed White.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very exciting race. As Ed's saying to me, when I got him, he clipped the barrier, so I made the switch back, which was nice. So he got me back a little bit later on. I didn't expect it, to be honest. Bit of a contact. I felt it was a bit so and so, but it was fair play. But I wanted to try the undercut, but I knew he would come in straight away. I had an excellent pit stop, and Ed had an equally good one as well. So as he say, I had the chance to win. I had a very nice kart for once, so I was happy with that. I'm hoping that's just enough to make me get into the semi-final.
Well, I think just to be involved in a battle like that, you can take a lot of heart. Well done, Lewis. Sorry to make you hang around, Ed. Here we go. Look. Not your first one, and I'm sure not your last. Thanks very much, Ed White. What a battle, not just for the lead there, but a great battle for fourth place.